Hello and welcome to Pixel Magic Tutorials. I am your host Geekman, and today I'm going to teach you how to create elegant gold text in Photoshop. A couple of assumptions to get out of the way. First, I am using Photoshop CC 2015. If you're using an earlier version of Photoshop, some of the effects may not work as expected. Second, I am using Windows. If you're using a Mac, then whenever I say hit the Control key on your keyboard, that means hit the Command key. And when I say hit the Alt key on your keyboard, that means hit the Option key. With that out of the way, let's begin by hitting Control-N on our keyboard to bring up the new image dialog box. And let's name this Elegant Gold Text, which is what we're doing. Now the document that we're using is going to be my standard tutorial, which is width of 3840 pixels, height of 2160 pixels, resolution of 150 pixels per inch, color mode RGB, color 8-bit. Background contents don't matter, we'll be changing them. Color profile is Adobe RGB 1998, and pixel aspect ratio is square pixels. Hit OK, and we're ready to begin. So first, let's set our foreground and background colors. Our foreground color needs to be this 009 BD0, which is a nice light blue. The next color, which is our background color, needs to be a deeper, darker blue, which is 002B3A. Then hit OK. We now have our foreground and background colors. So let's go over here to our background layer on our layers palette, double click on it to bring up the layer dialog box, and let's rename this as Wall, W-A-L-L. Hit OK, and it is now editable as it is. So now we need to select the gradient tool, so hit G on your keyboard or select the gradient tool over here in the toolbar on the left. What we want it to be in the options bar here is the first icon, which is the foreground to background. We want to use the second icon over here, which is a radial gradient. Mode is normal, opacity is 100%, reverse is unchecked, dither and transparency are both checked. Then we want to find somewhere near the center of our document. This looks good. Click, hold down Shift, and then drag to the edge of your document. And then let go, and you will have a nice gradient from light blue all the way to deep blue on the side. The next thing that we want to do is we are going to change our gradient to reflected, which is the second from the right icon. Everything else stays the same. And then we're going to create a brand new layer. So hit Control, Alt, and Shift, and then the letter N on your keyboard to create a new layer. And then we're going to double click and we're going to rename this as Table. Okay, once we have that as table, we're going to make sure that we're on our gradient tool still, and we're going to find the center of our document right about here-ish, and then we are going to click once and then Shift, not hold down Shift, and then just drag down to about the corner of the image. Let go, and you will have a nice vertical line gradient. And then what we want to do is we want to go to our marquee, so hit M on the keyboard or go up here to your rectangular marquee tool. Make sure it's on our first icon over here, which is New Selection, Feather of 0, Style is Normal. And then we want to make a selection of 2/3 of our document. So not this far down, somewhere a little bit lower than the center of the document, right about here-ish looks good. You want to select that, and then you want to delete it. So hit Delete on your keyboard, then Control D to deselect, and you now have a table and a wall. Okay. Next up, we are going to group both of these together by selecting both of them, then drag those two layers down to our group icon, let go, and you have a new group. Double click on it, and let's rename this as Background. And we have our background ready for our text. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to change our foreground color to our text color. So we're going to change our foreground color to the following: FFB 933, which is a nice kind of golden color. Hit OK. Then we're going to select our text tool by hitting T on the keyboard or by selecting the text tool over here in our toolbox. And then we're going to go up here and choose our font. Now I'm using Sanford. I have a link to Sanford in the description below, but feel free to use any thin-ish font. Thicker fonts don't really work with this. This is made for thinner, elegant looking fonts. The size that I'm using is 250 points, sharp, centered, and like I said, the golden color. Find the document center-ish and then click, and let's type in our text. In my case, I am using Pixel Magic, all caps. And then what we want to do is fix the kerning, because with all free fonts that you find out there, the kerning or the spacing in between letters is always messed up. So what you've got here is M is very close to the A, whereas the G is very far away from the A, and we want to fix that. So the way you do that is you put your cursor between the letters that you want to fix, and then holding down the Alt key on your keyboard, you can use the left and right arrow keys on the keyboard to move closer or further apart. So that's really all that you need to do here. So right arrow key will move the text further apart. Left arrow key will move the text closer together. So let's just clean this up a little bit, making this look a little bit better, I believe. Like so. That's a little too close. That looks too far. So that's close and good enough. So there we go. Check. And I'm just going to move this down to the table. So you want to drag this down to the table right about here-ish. And then make sure that it's centered. So let's make sure that we are centered. There we go. And we now have our text ready. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to duplicate this layer of text. So select that layer and then hit Control-J on the keyboard to duplicate it. We're then going to rename this as Overlay. And we are going to change its layer mode to, you guessed it, Overlay. Once you've done that, we are going to hide this. So click on the little icon there to hide it. We're then going to go back to our original text layer, and we're going to apply the following layer styles to it. So go down to your layer style. Let's hit Bevel and Emboss, because that's the first one that we're doing. So first thing is style is going to be inner bevel. Technique is smooth. Depth is going to be 370%. Direction is up. Size is going to be 29. And let's see here. Soften is 0. Shading, make sure that Use Global Light is unchecked, and we're going to be at 120, and we're going to be down here at 33. Then we're going to Use Global Light is unchecked, like I said. Gloss Counter is going to be Ring, which is the first one here. It says Ring. There you go. Anti-alias is checked. Highlight mode is going to be Color Dodge White, which is all Fs. Opacity is going to be 70%. Shadow mode is multiply, and it's black, so that's all zeros. Opacity is going to be 70%. Next up is going to be outer glow, way down here at the bottom. And our outer glow is going to be a blend mode of normal. Opacity is going to be 10%. Noise is going to be 2%. And the color that we're using here is going to be FFED71. Turn that, hit OK. Then we're going to go to Technique is softer. Spread is 0. Size is 15. Contour is going to be linear. Anti-alias is unchecked. Range is going to be 60%. And jitter is 0. Then we're going to put in a drop shadow. So let's go to blend mode of multiply. Color is going to be black, which is all zeros. Opacity is 60%. Angle, first make sure Use Global Light is unchecked. Angle is going to be 150. Our distance is going to be 37. Our spread is 18, and our size is 40. Contour is going to be linear, which is the very first icon. Anti-alias is unchecked. Noise is 0, and Layer Knocks Out Drop Shadow is checked. Then let's hit OK, because that's all that we need for this layer style. Now it looks pretty good, but we're going to add some more. First, though, we're going to go over here to our text layer, and we're going to duplicate it. So hit Control-J to duplicate it. Then let's drag that duplicate underneath our text layer. Let's double-click on it, and let's name this Reflection. And then we're going to open up our effects, and we're going to get rid of our drop shadow effect by clicking on just drop shadow and then dragging it to the trash. That will get rid of the drop shadow. Then what we're going to do is we're going to transform this layer. So hit Control T on the keyboard to transform. Let's right click on this and let's flip it vertical. And then let's drag it down until it is just below our text so that the G and the C or any other rounded letters you might have will still look like it's being reflected and is not directly underneath it like it looks here when they touch. So make sure that you are slightly below. Right about there-ish looks good. Then we're going to hit OK by hitting Enter on our keyboard. Then on our reflection layer, we are going to change its layer opacity to only 24%. So there we go, 24%. We're then going to add a layer mask. So add a layer mask, and then making sure that we are on the layer mask, we're going to select our gradient tool by hitting G on the keyboard or selecting the gradient tool. Make sure that we are foreground to background and make sure that we are on linear. And then we're going to start in the center of our original text layer, hold down Shift on the keyboard and drag down until the bottom of our reflection layer. Let go, and we have a nice reflection. Now that we're done with our reflection, we can go to the overlay layer, make that visible. Let's go, let me just go back to my pointer tool so you can see what I'm doing. And then we are going to give this some effects. So let's go over here to Bevel and Emboss. And what we're going to do is most of this is going to stay the same. There's only going to be one change. So all of this should be the same as it was for the text layer. But what we're going to do is we're going to go down here to Gloss Contour, and we're going to change it from ring to double ring, like that. Okay, that's really all that we have to do with that Bevel and Emboss. Then we're going to go over here to Inner Glow. Where's Inner Glow? There's Inner Glow. And we're going to give it a blend mode of overlay, opacity of 75%, noise of 0. The color that we're using here is going to be FE-F9C4. Okay. And then we are going to go to Technique of Softer. Source is center. Our choke is going to be 0. Our size is going to be 15%. And our contour is going to be Cove Deep, which is this backwards L looking guy. Then it's going to be anti-alias is checked. Our range is 25%. Our jitter is 0. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to give it a satin finish. So we're going to click on satin, and our blend mode is going to be lighter color. The color that we're using is going to be FFED00. Hit OK. Our opacity is going to be at 70%. Our angle is 135 degrees. Our distance is 50. Our size is 54. Our contour is going to be ring. Anti-alias is checked. Invert is unchecked. And that is all that we need there. We now have our text ready. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on our overlay layer. Holding down Shift, we are going to then click on Reflection. That selects all of them. Then we're going to right click on those layers and we're going to convert them to a smart object. And that makes it easier to work with. Then we're going to create a new layer on top of that, and we're going to call it Shine. Once you have Shine, you're going to change its layer mode to Overlay. And then we are going to go over here and change our foreground color to FFF-CD8, which is kind of a very, very light yellow. Then we are going to go to our brush tool B on the keyboard, or the brush tool over here on the toolbar. And we're going to make it a standard soft round brush. And we are going to make it size 80 or slightly bigger or smaller, depending on how much shine you want. Make sure its mode is normal, opacity is 100%, and flow is 100%. And then find one spot maybe on each of your letters. And I say maybe because sometimes you might not want to have a shine on a letter. But just one spot, and then just click on that like that. That will give it a shine that looks pretty realistic. Like that, without overpowering it. So let's do this guy here. Sometimes you might want to do more than one, like on this L. I want one down there, like so. But let's say you made a mistake and you don't like that. Go to your eraser tool, which is E on the keyboard, or click on the eraser. Make it a nice size. 80 is so is good. And then you can just erase your mistake like that. Then you can go back to your brush tool, B on the keyboard, and continue doing your good work. So here we go with some more shine. I gave the M2 because I liked the M. I'm going to give this I here up here. I'll give it 2 just like that. And the C over here in the darkness gets just the 1. So that gives it a little bit of shine, so it looks good. You turn it off and it looks a little bland. You turn it on, you've got some shine. And that right there is elegant gold text in Photoshop. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe. I leave a new tutorial every Tuesday. Once again, this is Geekman signing off for Pixel Magic Tutorials.